Mel Brooks' 6 favorite actors. Simplified script. Wow, this is really special. It makes you feel happy and sad at the same time. It's very touching. He doesn't look for quiet acting. He doesn't want whispers. Brooks looks for the crazy stuff. The weird timing, the over-the-top acting. The kind of actor who can make a scene explode and still make it work perfectly. I'm totally in love. I know, I'm just amazed by her. I'm amazed and I'm in love. For more than 60 years, Mel Brooks has changed what it means to be funny. He writes movies, directs them, makes them, and even acts in them himself. But behind every amazing moment is something else. He's obsessed with picking the right actors, the right kind of crazy person, the one voice that can make a line explode and leave everyone shocked. He doesn't want perfect acting. He wants acting that catches fire. Movies like The Producers, Blazing, Saddles, Young Frankenstein, and Spaceballs. His movies are famous, but what holds them together is great acting. Brooks doesn't just write jokes. He picks actors who explode like fireworks. And when an actor gives him that, when someone goes really big and still feels real, Brooks never forgets them. What's left is more than just laughs. It's like music. It's crazy stuff that actually makes sense. They're always laughing at me. Why are they laughing at me? I said, look in the mirror. Blame it on God. He's worked with lots of actors, but only a few became legends. The ones who didn't just tell the joke right, but broke open the whole scene and made it louder, weirder, and better. Here are the 6 actors Brooks never stopped trusting. More than punchlines, more than clapping, and no one else has ever replaced them. Number 1, Gene Wilder. Some actors walk into tryouts hoping to look good. Gene Wilder didn't walk in. He floated in like he already belonged in Mel Brooks' world. It wasn't being confident, that it wasn't showing off. It was a quiet kind of craziness. A man who looked like he'd seen too much scary stuff and still wanted to make you laugh about it. And the moment Mel saw him, he knew this wasn't just an actor. This was like a raw nerve that knew perfect timing. Wilder didn't read for the part. He became it. And once he did, Brooks never looked back. He said, Gene Wilder made being scared funny. And that's impossible to do. From The Producers to Blazing, Saddles to Young Frankenstein, Gene didn't just act. He melted into the movie like heat behind a joke. Every nervous twitch, every look, every whispered breakdown felt real, not like someone reading lines. In The Producers, when Gene played Leo Bloom, he wasn't pretending to be crazy Dot. He was falling apart right in front of you. 1 minute crying, the next minute screaming, then somehow singing. Brooks didn't tell him how to do it. He just got out of the way and let him fly. In Young Frankenstein, it was Gene who fought to keep the movie serious. It was his idea to film it in black and white. His idea to treat it like a real scary movie, not a silly sketch show. Brooks said Gene didn't want to make fun of scary movies. He wanted to love them to death. That's what made it work so well. Give my creation life. While everyone was laughing, Gene was hurting inside. His characters were always one shaky breath away from breaking down completely. That's where the magic happened, right at the edge. Mel said he could give Gene a page of script and get back something that wasn't just funnier. It was smarter. Wilder didn't aim for punchlines. He aimed for making people feel confused emotions. He wanted the audience to laugh because they didn't know what else to do. In Blazing Saddles, he plays the Waco kid like a cowboy whose soul had already left town. He's drunk, empty inside, and somehow still charming. Most actors would make it too big. Wilder just lets the quiet moments do half the work. Other funny actors might fill a scene with loud noises. Gene filled it with being vulnerable and hurt, and that's what Mel Brooks loved most. Not just the laughs, but where they came from. With Gene, The comedy always had something darker mixed in, something honest and real. Their working friendship wasn't built on getting orders. It was built on gut feelings. Mel gave Gene the space, and Gene gave him characters that felt real even when the world around them was completely ridiculous. Their friendship went deeper than just working together. It was like they shared the same brain. Brooks once said he could tell if a script would work just by imagining Gene reading it. If it didn't sound right in Wilder's voice, it probably wasn't funny enough or human enough. No one else gave him that special sense. No one else brought that shaking brilliance. Gene Wilder wasn't just a favorite actor. He was like a mirror for Mel Brooks, showing back every bit of craziness, but with grace. And when he left the scene, Mel said the movie never felt quite as alive again. Number 2, Madeline Kahn. Some actors earn attention. Madeline Kahn made being quiet funny. The first time Mel Brooks saw her, she didn't try out for the part. She exploded like a bomb. One line, one look, and suddenly everyone else in the room disappeared. She didn't steal the scene. She made it spin around her. Brooks once said, Madeline didn't play the joke. She played the person the joke was scared of. In Blazing Saddles, she walks in as Lily von Stupp, like a musical dream. Half like a famous German actress, half self-destruction. The accent, the way she stood, the way she fell apart in the middle of performing. It's all planned chaos. But underneath it, total control. She wasn't being a clown. She was directing the ridiculous stuff. She didn't punch the comedy hard. She whispered it and let the audience do the rest. Madeline had this way of using stillness like a weapon. While everyone else was moving around, she stayed calm, and that's what made her dangerous. Her way of talking wasn't loud, but it rang out like a bell. In Young Frankenstein, she turned a small part into the center of gravity. Every word, every breathless scream, timed like a sniper shot. Her lines didn't need to be written funny. She made them funny just by deciding to. Brooks said she could take a word like no and make it a 3-act play. It's true. It's true. She wasn't just funny. She was exact. Every character had rules and limits. Madeline never mixed them up. She made her choices sharp, sometimes like surgery. That's why they stick with you. That's why you remember a line she whispered more than a long speech someone else shouted. In High Anxiety, she's the dangerous woman and the punchline at the same time. One moment trying to be sexy, the next completely crazy, but never out of control. Madeline knew the rhythm. She didn't ride the comedy. She let it. Other actors might chase timing. Madeline owned it, and Mel knew it. That's why he kept calling her back, because she could walk into a scene and change the entire story just by raising an eyebrow. She didn't need tricks. She had presence. That's the secret. Not style, not silly physical comedy. Gravity Dot and Madeline brought it wrapped in lace, lipstick, and total voice control. Brooks gave her space, and she filled it not with noise, but with power. She didn't beg for attention. She let the script lean toward her. Her energy changed scenes, changed what people expected. Mel once said that directing Madeline was like trying to tell fire where to burn. She wasn't difficult to work with. She was exact and precise. And that kind of being exact, that's rare in comedy. That's what made her timeless. No making stuff up on the spot. No crazy improvising, just clarity, control, and that special slow-burning chaos you couldn't turn away from. Audiences didn't just laugh. They leaned in because they knew something was coming, and it was always better than they expected. There are actors you admire. Then there are the ones who change how the room feels just by walking in. Madeline Kahn didn't just act in Mel's movies. She tilted the entire screen. And for Brooks, she wasn't just a favorite. She was a weapon he could trust. Number 3. Harvey Korman. Some actors deliver punchlines. Harvey Korman gave up and let them take over. He didn't fight for the spotlight. He collapsed into it, sometimes literally falling down. Korman was the rare kind of actor who could fall apart on screen in real time and make it look like the most organized falling apart you'd ever seen. Mel Brooks didn't hire him to act like a fool. He hired him to understand the fool. Korman once said, "Mel doesn't need you to be funny. He needs you to know why it's funny." That's what made him dangerous. Korman didn't throw jokes around. He played desperate people. He turned puffed-up authority into flailing mess. His bad guys weren't evil. They were insecure, flustered, always one insult away from falling apart. In Blazing Saddles, his performance as Hedley Lamar isn't just comic relief. It's a guide for controlled chaos. He's the straight man pretending he's the villain, pretending he's in charge, but he's not. And Harvey knows it, and that's where the genius lives. Don't fly off the handle, sir. I am about to make you a historic figure. Harvey could take arrogance and make it fragile. He wasn't clownish. He was exact. His timing was like surgery. Every stutter, every eye movement, every gasp, it wasn't made up on the spot. It was planned like a dance. He built his comedy on collapse. Brooks once said, Harvey could stretch a panic attack into a 5-minute scene and still hit every line perfectly. Even when the camera wasn't on him, he was doing something. Watch any group scene. While others talk, Korman reacts. He listens with his whole body. You can see his characters fall apart just by how he breathes. That's a kind of skill most funny actors never master. And then there's the crack, the moment when Harvey breaks character. It happened all the time, especially with Tim Conway or on the Carol Burnett Show. But even in Mel's movies, you can catch it. A smile he can't hold back, a twitch of his lip. And the audience loves it, because that crack, it's permission. Permission to laugh harder. Permission to feel like you're in on the joke. In High Anxiety, he plays a cruel, stiff villain. And still, you can't help but laugh when he loses control. That's the trick. Korman never tries to be funny. He lets the weird stuff eat away at his character's confidence. His characters never know they're in a comedy, and that's exactly what Mel needed. Other actors performed jokes. Korman performed fear of being embarrassed. He didn't play clowns. He played people pretending not to be clowns, and Mel gave him the room to do it. Because when Harvey had space, he didn't fill it with noise. He filled it with implosions. He could turn a sigh into a symphony of ego destruction. He could turn a word like "what" into a 6-act opera of confusion. That's the power of Korman. His comedy wasn't just big. It had layers. The longer the scene, the more ways he found to unravel. He didn't rush. He unfolded. And when Mel Brooks talks about Harvey now, there's a softness. You can hear it. He wasn't just someone he worked with. He was a pillar. One of the rare few who could anchor a scene with a meltdown and still give everyone else space to shine, because that was Harvey's secret. He never needed to be the center. He just kept becoming it. Every time he walked on screen, something felt just a little bit more ridiculous, a little more human, a little more true. And Brooks, he didn't just laugh, he watched. Because Harvey Korman didn't deliver lines, he took apart the moment every single time. Number 4, Don DeLucy. Some actors steal the scene. Don DeLucy ate it up and made you love him for it. Mel Brooks didn't hire Don to hold back. He hired him because no one else could explode on screen with that much joy, that much chaos, and still make it feel like home. There was nothing neat about Don. He didn't enter quietly. He didn't wait for the spotlight. He grabbed it, rolled around in it, and tossed it back with a laugh. Brooks once said, when Don walked into a scene, It wasn't acting anymore. It was jazz music. It was fireworks. It was heart. Watch him in History of the World Part 1. There's a rhythm to his madness, a kind of beat he dances on while the rest of the cast tries to catch up. He barrels through lines with his whole body committed, flipping from scary to sweet in half a breath. But that's the trick. Underneath all the craziness, Dom acted with precision. He knew the line between chaos and clarity. He could swing from explosive anger to puppy dog innocence without warning. And Mel trusted him to do it because it always worked. Nice, nice. Not thrilling, but nice. DeLucy wasn't just a funny actor. He was a force of nature. His laughter was its own special effect. His presence on set didn't just boost the energy. It shifted the gravity. Other actors performed jokes. Dom lived inside them. And yet, with all the loud stuff, there was vulnerability. You could see it peek through the volume. That little flicker behind the grin that said, "I'm not just trying to make you laugh. I'm trying to make you feel okay too." He wasn't polished. He was honest. Mel Brooks said there's something childlike in Dom. Not childish, childlike. He believed in the joy of pretending. That's why Dom worked so well with everyone from Madeline Kahn to Marty Feldman. He didn't compete. He made everyone better. He lifted everyone around him by giving more than the scene asked for. And Mel knew it. That's why he kept calling him back. Whether it was as the high-strung pizza chef in Robin Hood, Men in Tights, the unhinged king in history, or his famous voice work in animated movies, Mel supported. Dom brought something no one else could. Excited empathy. He could scream and charm in the same sentence. He could fall off a chair and still land the emotional beat. And when he laughed, really laughed, you felt it in your chest. That's the magic. DeLucy didn't care about looking cool or calm. He made himself the joke, so the audience never had to feel like one. He gave permission to lose control, to be too much, to laugh at yourself without shame. That kind of performance isn't planned. It's shared. And Mel understood, because every time Dom walked on set, he didn't just bring the eye. Funny, he brought relief. He burst through the screen like a warm gust of craziness, leaving behind a scene that felt more human, more unruly, more alive. He never aimed for subtle. He aimed for connection. And when the scene was over, you didn't just remember the joke. You remembered how it made you feel. That was Dom's legacy. Laughter with soul, chaos with compassion, and performances that never apologize for being too loud, too big, too weird, because deep down they were too real to ignore. Mel didn't hire him to tone things down. He hired him because Dom DeLucy made too much feel like truth. Number 5. Cloris Leachman. Some actors perform comedy. Cloris Leachman cornered it, tied it up, and made it beg for mercy. She didn't shout. She didn't flail around. She didn't need to. Cloris could make a room burst into laughter by standing still. And Mel Brooks knew from the moment she stepped into the shot, she didn't just get comedy. She controlled it. Brooks once said, Cloris had the timing of a sniper. She waited, then struck, and it always killed. Her most famous moment, Young Frankenstein, Frau Blucher. The name alone made horses rear up in terror. But what Leachman did with that role was pure precision. Every pause was planned perfectly. Every glance sharpened like a knife. She took a small part and turned it into something people still remember. I am Frau Blucher, but Cloris didn't rely on silly gags. She used subtlety like a weapon. In a room full of over-the-top performances, she stood out by pulling back, letting the awkward silence hang, letting the discomfort simmer dot, and that's where the laughter lived, just beneath her deadpan stare. Mel Brooks said he barely had to direct her. She came in knowing exactly what beat she was playing. Sometimes he'd try to change her delivery, and she'd politely ignore it because she knew better, and she was usually right. Cloris had range most. Comedians were jealous of. She could switch from absurd to sincere in a blink. 1 second, she's the crazy housekeeper with a dungeon obsession. The next, she's showing real emotional weight. That's what made her dangerous. She wasn't just funny. She was real. So when she was funny, it hit even harder. In High Anxiety, she played Nurse Diesel with a kind of operatic restraint, equal parts scary and motherly. She didn't raise her voice, she raised the tension. And she did it with posture, with presence, with that icy smile that said, "I know. Something you don't." And the audience couldn't look away. Brooks once described her as a comedy surgeon, not because she cut people up, but because she made every moment precise. She carved her space with stillness, not noise. And in a Mel Brooks film, that kind of control is rare and deadly. Cloris didn't act out the joke. He said, she stood there and became the joke, and you couldn't beat it. She brought a kind of confidence that let others bounce off her. Wilder, Feldman, Kahn, they could all go big because Cloris grounded the scene. She anchored the madness, gave it gravity. And behind the scenes, she was chaos in the best way. Pranks, ad-libs, glances that sent co-stars into fits of laughter mid-take. Brooks would often ruin a perfectly good take because he couldn't hold it together behind the camera. But when it counted, Cloris delivered. She didn't just know her lines. She knew the tone better than anyone. She could walk into a scene, say 4 words, and tilt the whole story. Others got more screen time. Some had flashier roles, but no one landed more moments per minute than Cloris Leachman. She didn't ask for laughs. She earned them through control, confidence, and timing that couldn't be taught. And for Mel Brooks, she wasn't just a favorite. She was his scalpel. Sharp, exact, and absolutely unforgettable. Number 6. Zero Mostel. Some actors chew the scenery. Zero Mostel ate it up, digested it, and then threw it back as a monologue. He wasn't subtle. He wasn't careful. And Mel Brooks didn't want him to be. He wanted zero, unfiltered, untamed, and absolutely impossible to ignore. Brooks once said, Zero Mostel was like a volcano in a fancy hat. You didn't direct him. You just cleared the area and prayed. It all started with the producers. Mel's very first movie, and the role of Max. Bialystok was a monster. Loud, scheming, desperate. The kind of role that could crash and burn if the actor didn't bring full commitment. But Mostel didn't just commit. He launched into space. His version of Bialystok wasn't just a character. It was a survival mechanism. A man clawing through. Every scene with ego, panic, and just enough charm to get away with all of it. And yet, through all the shouting and sweat, there was something delicate. Zero could flip from mania to vulnerability in half a sentence. He wasn't just performing. He was exposing something. I'm reaching out to you. Don't send me to prison. That was his magic. Mostel could make the audience uncomfortable and win. Them back in the same breath. 1 second you're laughing at how ridiculous he is. The next you're wondering if he might actually break down in front of you. Mel didn't hire him because he was easy to work with. He hired him because he was undeniable. Behind the scenes, Zero was famously difficult, demanding, stubborn. But Brooks never held it against him, because when the camera rolled, he delivered. And not just technically, emotionally. The kind of emotional chaos that can't be taught or directed, only survived. Brooks said, working with Zero was like wrestling a lion. Exhausting, beautiful, and completely worth it. There's a reason the producers worked. Gene Wilder was the trembling heart. But Zero, he was the hurricane. Without him, the movie doesn't. Breathe the same way. He made Mel's writing bigger, bolder, wilder. He gave the film teeth and a face audiences couldn't forget. Mostel didn't play funny. He played need. Every outburst came from hunger, for money, for attention, for control. That desperation, that's what grounded him. You couldn't just laugh at Bialystok. You had to feel bad for him, too. And very few actors could carry that contradiction. Even decades later, Brooks still talks about Zero with awe. Yes, he drove everyone crazy. Yes, he pushed every limit. But when you needed someone to throw himself at a scene like it owed him money, Zero was your man. And when it worked, it was magic. That's why Brooks never tried to replace him. That kind of raw, oversized honesty, you only find it once. Zero Mostel wasn't just a performer. He was a one-man genre. Louder than life, sharper than he looked, and just unhinged enough to make you lean in closer, even when you knew you probably shouldn't. For Mel Brooks, he wasn't just a favorite actor. He was the original explosion. And every performer after him has been chasing the same blast. Mel Brooks never needed perfection. He needed presence. The kind that breaks the scene, rewrites the rhythm, and leaves everyone, including the director, struggling not to laugh. These six didn't just deliver lines. They built the storm with sweat, with timing, with fearless, absurd, heart-splitting performances. And Mel, he gave them space. Because when comedy's that electric, all you do is aim the camera and get out of the way. Let us know who your favorite was. And if you're still here, go ahead, hit subscribe, drop a comment, or become a member for early access and extra deep dives like this one. Because the best performances, they don't age, they ignite.